Welcome to the first episode ever of SIU Today, the podcast. I'm John Wickman, and I'm here with Jesse Lopez, my co-host. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you.
Jesse, this is your first podcast that you're hosting, so how do you feel about it?
I'm excited about it, and we got a lot of information to provide to everybody, but thank you.
Well, we FaceTimed for about 6 hours last night prepping you for this, so I hope it goes over well with our listeners.
Right.
Today, we're going to be talking about what is SIU and why is it beneficial. And we brought on Celeste and Amy. Celeste, you are the president of IASGO, and Amy, you are the vice president, so welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves? Celeste, why don't you start?
Sure. I have been the president of ISIU for the past 3 years. In addition, I am also regional manager of SIU Department for State Farm Insurance.
And I'm Amy, and I am a SIU manager at WCF Insurance, and I've been on the board of directors since 2018, the past 2.5 years as vice president.
Jesse, since this is our first episode, why don't you let our listeners know who you are for those of them that don't know?
So my name is Jesse Lopez, and I'm actually one of the directors for ISU as well. I'm actually on my second term, my second year, and my second term on the board.
So I think before we dive into this, we kind of want to let the listeners know that this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do with the podcast. This is kind of to introduce everybody to it, explain what SIU is and why it's beneficial to investigations, but also why we're doing this for IASGO and just for the SIU industry, basically, or the community. So being the president of IASGO, Celeste, what can you tell us about insurance fraud and why is it so important for us to combat it?
Well, it's a huge problem for the industry, for the community, for our government. It's over a $1 billion problem. That's the impact of insurance fraud annually in the United States alone. So it's huge. You break that down a little bit, it's like 10 to 30% of all claims, insurance claims, have some element of fraud. For each policyholder, for each person like you and me who go out and buy a policy, the cost to us individually is $1,000 a year in our premiums. So you think about that, if you have a family of 4, that's $4,000 a year. That's a lot of money. So insurance fraud is impacting every one of us, each individually and then collectively.
One of the things I think people want to know is, why do people commit insurance fraud? And is it ever going to go away? Are we going to be able to combat this away?
So the second part of your question is easy. The answer is no. And I wish I could say yes, but it's such a large problem. It's not going away. It's going to evolve. There's insurance fraud in every type of coverage that we have, whether it be property and casualty, health, workers' comp, Medicare. There's insurance fraud in all types of insurance. And why do people do it? Well, their motives vary. It can be for financial gain. It's opportunists, people who something happens and they go, I want to make some money out of this. Or there also are organized ring of people who get together and try to figure out, like a criminal ring of people who are trying to commit insurance fraud. So it's their income, how they make their money. So the reasons behind committing insurance fraud vary as much as the type of person that commits insurance fraud. There is no one type of person. It really depends on the individual motive, not who they are, where they live.
So we're talking about insurance fraud. So how does SIU fit into that? What is the role or the purpose of an SIU investigator in the fight against fraud?
So SIU is an acronym for Special Investigation Unit, and it was created by the insurance industry years ago in their efforts to combat insurance fraud. And in fact, today it's grown to where a lot of states require that carriers have to have an SIU to even conduct business in that state. And so the purpose of an SIU, like I said, and what Celeste just addressed, is to fight this $300 billion problem. And insurance carriers recognized that they needed a team of well-educated and trained investigators to be up to date on all of the insurance schemes and everything that we're seeing every day. So they were created out of the insurance industry's response to combat the problem of insurance fraud.
I think this could be a question for all three of you. Is being an SIU investigator a hard job?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But it's also a rewarding job because you have the responsibility of protecting all policyholders to make sure that we're not paying fraudulent claims or trying to identify and resist those fraudulent claims.
Every insurance company wants to pay what they owe, right? And I feel that SIUs help ensure that carriers do that.
Being an SIU investigator just makes you think out of the box, makes you be creative, because the individuals that are committing fraud are also themselves being creative and normally a step ahead of everybody. But it's very challenging, but it's very rewarding.
And I'll also say that it's not just a problem in the United States, it's an international problem. Insurance fraud exists across the globe, which is why what we do is so important, because the people who are committing the fraud can be sitting anywhere today with the use of technology.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So ISU has been around for a while. Can you give us a little history of ISU and how it came to be?
Yes, we were created 39 years ago. So back in 1984, there were 9 gentlemen who recognized a need for education and networking. And so they got together and held their first meeting in St. Louis, Missouri. And at the time, fun fact, they were known as NASIU. At the time, they were only the National Association. And it wasn't until 2 years later that they became IASIU, the International Association. So again, they recognized the need for education and training, in-person training, networking in this fight against insurance fraud. So since 1984, with 9 gentlemen creating this organization, we've grown to an international organization of over 3,500 members across the globe. We have chapters now in Europe and in South Korea, and our members in other countries as well. And now with our updated bylaws, we're able and hopefully able to expand our footprint to more countries and have chapters, and as we grow internationally. So it's a very exciting time for our organization.
Now, Jesse, I want to jump in here because I do have a question that I just thought of. Are any of those 9 original creators of NASIU, are they involved at all in the organization anymore? Or are they all retired and living on a beach?
They're
somewhere?
retired.
Yeah.
They're retired now, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know if they're living on a beach, but
Well,
about that part.
you guys have a hard job, so we want to make sure you have a nice retirement afterwards.
Yes, it is. So for myself, being a director on the board for ISU, and knowing the inner workings of what ISU does, and what it creates and is given to our membership, can you tell us what the benefits are for being a member of ISU?
So, ISU and Amy articulated a lot of it about how large we are and how, vast our membership is. Our focus, our mission is to bring the world's fraud fighting community together through education, awareness, and networking. That is what we're focused on. All the things that we do, anytime we roll out anything or try to provide support to our members, it's considering that mission, because we are the global leaders. We're advancing excellence in the insurance fraud fighting community across the globe. And we do so in a variety of manners. And we do that through things like today, like the podcast. We have conferences, our annual conference. We have local chapter seminars. We do webinars. We have a magazine. There's just so many benefits to being a member of ISIU. And it's so important to be a member because when you're in the role of being charged with identifying and investigating insurance fraud, and you hear about like all the new trends, because fraud is changing rapidly. Every day a new scheme is coming out. You as a professional have a responsibility to keep up with that. And so ISU make sure that we provide the education that you need in order to know what's going on out there and have the knowledge and the tools to be able to identify and resist that fraud.
plus the networking and partnerships, the opportunities that ISU provides to all our members. It's great. We have such a large connection with our partners, our vendors, and our sponsors that the networking and those partnership opportunities are just, they're how do you say
They're vital. They're
vital.
to
Well,
our organization.
Invaluable to
invaluable.
investigations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're invaluable. So it's just, yeah.
And I think it's a really good point, Jesse, because it's not just ISIU that is, fighting insurance fraud and all the members of ISIU, but we have some strategic business partners that we work very, very closely with, helping to create an awareness and really taking a leadership role in trying to make changes in the industry so that we have the ability to effectively fight fraud. And we do that with the National Insurance Crime Bureau, as well as the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud, and a plethora of other organizations, businesses that are in the business of supporting SIU departments.
I imagine being on the board and being the president, the vice president is a lot of work. It's a volunteer position, but it takes a lot of your time away from what you're doing. So there was a time when both of you weren't members of IASU. So how did you hear about it? How'd you get involved? And what made you want to get involved?
Oh gosh, that was so long ago. I was first introduced to IASU by my former manager, Sean Ainsworth. He hired me into SIU, and that was the first thing he told me about. He said, there's this great organization, you have to become a member. So he was telling me I had to become a member before I knew much about it. So you have to be a member. So I immediately signed up. It wasn't until a little bit later that I attended my first conference, and that was in 2010. I attended in Orlando, Florida. That was my first IASU conference, and all of the education that I've received over the years, the networking alone, I mean, I am where I am today because of IASU and the people that I've met along the way.
For me, it's a little different, but very similar. I was drawn to IASU because of what it offered for me as an SIU professional. I got into IASU early on in my career before it was international. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to talk years, but just say I got involved before it became international. It was a necessity for me as a professional to learn and grow. And I also had opportunities to attend. My first conference was in Florida as well. And the contacts that I made at the conference was vital to me as you're navigating through this role, because there's so much out there and there's so much overlap that occurs. And, having those contacts to help educate me was just so invaluable. And IASU has been part of my career for a long time.
And I started the same way. Was informed about IASU from the past IASU president, Tommy Short. He introduced me into IASU and brought me in to the meetings, and the opportunities from the networking, and you always bring up networking. The networking alone, because we have so many subject matter experts within IASU, is what helps build us and makes us grow and be better investigators. So it's been a great opportunity.
So the three of you kind of discussed how you have a bunch of different avenues and platforms to offer training and networking for fraud fighters and for SIU and members of IASU. What else does IASU do?
Our annual conference is coming up September 17th. We will be in Dallas, Texas, and we've been to Texas before. I think this is the first time that we have been to Dallas, and this is actually where we were supposed to be back in September of 2020. So we all know what happened back then, and we went virtual that year. And so now here we are in 2023. finally being able to come to Dallas, Texas, and really excited about the robust agenda that we have. Our goal is to bring all the new tips and tools and everything an investigator needs in their toolbox. We want to provide that education. We're the premier global insurance fraud conference, and excited to have, classes on social media, what people need to be knowing, investigators need to be knowing about social media right now. We're having a presenter speak on Tesla and vehicle forensics. Electric cars are really rising right now, and I really hope that all of our attendees walk away feeling that they have learned skills that they can put in use right away.
And, as I'm listening to what Amy was saying, it's, you were asking, John, what were the other things we offered? And I mentioned them earlier. Our local chapters are such a critical part of our organization. And they're when I say local, they're scattered across the United States. And as Amy mentioned, in Europe and South Korea, we'll have some of those individuals at our conference as well from across the globe who are also there to learn. And it's an opportunity for us to learn what's going on in their countries. We also do a lot of training in addition to, like I mentioned, the SIU Today magazine, quarterly magazine. We have webinars that are offered monthly as well, really, really cutting edge topics. But we're also involved with our strategic partners in events such as the Global Insurance Fraud Summit, where we bring leaders from across the globe together to talk about some of the trends that are occurring across the globe and how each of the countries are addressing those trends, and what are some best practices, and how do we work together in order to have a united front against fraud. And so I as you recognize how important it is to be part of that community and influencing and leading the global insurance fraud community. And so we're involved in things like that as well.
So who are ISU's partners in fight against insurance fraud?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier that it's organizations like NICB, the National Insurance Crime Bureau, and the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud. And then we have a number of, I could start to list all of the different organizations that support insurance companies and provide services to insurance companies, whether it be technology or services, that are also in the fight against insurance fraud. And let's not forget the Department of Insurance and law enforcement as well. We are not in this alone. We fight this together. We're able to make an impact because we work together in the fight against insurance fraud. And we're very fortunate to have some very active partners.
So what was the thinking behind creating a podcast specifically for IAGIO?
So I think it was really recognizing the need to have cutting edge topics where our members could listen to it at their leisure, because it's recorded and it's not like a live broadcast. It gives them a chance to go fit it into their schedule. They're informative. We're bringing in experts in the field. CE credits can be earned by watching and then answering some questions. So we recognize this is another way to reach out to our members and provide the education that they need in order to be able to do their job successfully.
We also want the opportunity to basically give back to our membership, not just in our regular and associate members, but also our sponsors and vendors. We'd like to give them additional exposure for themselves, and also highlight things that we're doing with the events with the conference, in certifications and things like that. But basically, it's an opportunity for us to give back to our membership and to all our sponsors.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to say for anybody watching this or listening is that it's going to be interviews from different chapters. We're going to have different discussions for CE credits and training, and also we'll be highlighting different vendors. So it's going to be a mixed bag of different things. It's not just going to be the same type of episode every single month. So it should have a little bit of a new flavor to, I guess, the IAGIO outreach. So what should our listeners be taking away from today's podcast? If you want them to take away one or two things, what would it be?
So what I want them to take away from it is that ISU continue to look for innovative ways to reach out to our members to provide the education that they need. The podcasts are going to enable them to learn, like I mentioned earlier, when they're ready. And we're going to have topics that are cutting edge and innovative, and they're going to be different. We're going to highlight some of our chapters. We're going to highlight some of our members. We're going to highlight experts in the field, provide information that's valuable to our members. So it's an opportunity for our members to continue to learn. And let me also just say, for those people who are not members that maybe haven't joined ISU yet, I encourage you to do so. Be part of a community that is focused on education, sharing knowledge, networking, and awareness, creating a awareness of the insurance fraud problem. If you're in the industry or in the career of investigating insurance fraud, you need to be part of this organization. You need to join us and work with us, because you'll be stronger, you'll be more educated, and have to be more knowledgeable. And if it's a field that you're considering, then I encourage you to reach out to IISU as well, so you can learn more about it and find out ways to be able to consider opportunities for joining the SIU. It's a hard job, but it's very rewarding.
The conference is coming up in a little bit more than a month in Dallas. So is there anything you guys wanted to add about it that maybe we didn't touch on already?
Well, I hope everyone who's listening or watching has registered or is going to register to join us in Dallas. We are hosting our annual golf tournament on Sunday, September 17th, and it will be at the Cowboys Club. Our charity recipient this year is ATO, Assist the Officer, which is an organization there in Dallas, Texas, that gives back to the law enforcement community, specifically to fallen law enforcement officers, to their families. So it also provides counseling and services to officers in the Dallas community. So there's also the CIFI and the CIFA. There's going to be a training class that afternoon. If you would like to take that class and then test on site, love to have you work towards those designations that we offer. And then hope to see everyone at the welcome reception that evening.
And I'd like to add that SIU Today podcast will be going live at the conference. So look for us, stop by, visit with us, and we'll be very happy to have you guys stop in and so we can interview you and have a good time.
Yeah, maybe you'll make our blooper reel.
That would be fun.
So for closing remarks, I think kind of everybody has something to say, but I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to join you in this podcast and kind of go on this adventure with IASIO. I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to the different topics and training sessions that we're going to have.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jesse, as well.
Does anybody have anything that they want to close this out with?
Come join us.
Come join us in Dallas, and make sure you register, like Amy said.
Yes.
And there are sponsorships still available, I believe, for golf and maybe for the conference as well. I don't know about the conference, but I know for golf there is. So
Yes.
if you're a vendor and you're not involved, you definitely should get involved and consider sponsoring this year.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And look,
You can-
if you want, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you can reach out to myself, Jesse, or Celeste. We'd love to have you all in Dallas.
Absolutely. And also check out our website at isiu.org. The information about the conference, about membership, about all the different events that we provide are on that website as well.
I think it'll be a great event. And then next year, it's our 40th anniversary. So excited to get started with that planning.
Looking forward to that.
Yes. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, John.
Well,
Thank you.
thank
Amy.
you. Thanks
Celeste.
everybody for joining us today for the first episode. And like I said, there's going to be different type of episodes. Some of them will be training for CE credit. Some of them will be discussions like this, but we kind of wanted to kick it off by just what the plan is for the podcast. What is SIU? And if you're not involved in IASIO, why you should get involved with it, and just kind of kicking things off. So thanks everybody for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you in Dallas.